Hi guys, how you doing? Hopefully everyone's just come back for their foam roller session. So hopefully doing a tech check. So give me a thumbs up. How do you do that? Give me a heart. What's that new care one where you hug? That's a good one as well. So just give me one of those so that I know my tech check up and we're up and running. That's brilliant. Okay, cool. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Good, good, we up and running? That's brilliant. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do some foam roller session. Now this is a bit of a hardcore one to do for hips and spine. These big ones are really, really useful. They are like a sledgehammer, so they're going to hit something. So it doesn't mean just because it's hurting, it's right. Now a lot of people will use foam rollers in spine. They can cause a lot of damage. So you can go with great power comes great responsibility. So if you're not sure with a foam roller in hips and spine, you really can't be doing it without the right sort of advice. So if you don't know what you're doing and you're not sure, you really got to contact us and you've got to message us. Okay, so this is really tough stuff. So okay, so this is a big one. Actually, it works really well in hips. I've been working on these type of techniques with my patients virtually, and it's really, really, really effective. They say, oh, that's exactly like it was when I'm in the clinic. So these are very effective techniques. We can loosen muscles very strong. Just because you loosen a muscle doesn't mean it needs to be loosened. Sometimes people loosen muscles and it will destabilize their hips. We don't work out why they've got the problem. If we don't understand the why, you're going to loosen things and can cause yourself a lot of problems, a lot of pain, a lot of damage. So for everyone that's fit and healthy, if you actually have an injury or actually have pain right now, message and comment, direct message me and I'll give you some appropriate advice. Everybody else, we're going to crack on and start using the foam roller in our hips. Now everyone that's done this with me will know how strong this is. It's great stuff, but it's really strong. Okay guys, right, so get yourself a plinth at home. No, not really. Get yourself a foam a mat, a yoga mat, fluffy carpet, whatever's good for you. I wouldn't do it on a hard surface. You can do it on a bed. Beds are a bit too soft in most of the time, so probably fluffy carpet or a yoga mat. So foam rollers, depends on how hardcore you are. So knobbly bits harder, softer bit, the flatter bit easier. I would actually in hips, and though I really go hardcore most of the time, I'm going to use the soft edge here and it's going to be quite strong. So we're going to do this laying down again, so make sure you've got it in your hand as we go, and again laying down on our back like that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to target our hip muscle, our glutei. So, or actually in this case, some of the deeper muscles that are inside the hip rotators, and they sit much, much deeper in the glutei. To start with, you'll probably on the glutei and it will sink through lower. So if I lay on my side so I can show you the anatomical marks, there's a knobbly bit here called the PSIS, the posterior superior iliac spine. Everyone remember that home? The PSIS is, no, not really, just the knobbly bit's fine. Couple of inches down, this is the top of the buttock muscle that you'll feel. So this is the kind of start of the glutei that you can probably get into with a foam roller. So we're going to use the edge of the foam roller in that spot there. So as you're going to hold that, you're going to keep your left leg straight and you're going to roll on top of the right one. So it's inside that deep hip intrinsic, just in there, so that you're just next to it. Now, this will feel painful. It is tight in there. So if you're in the right spot, you'll feel some pressure. And sometimes it might not be feeling that much pressure to start with until it starts to loosen. Now, if it feels pain, message me. If it's okay, let it go. So if it's just kind of feeling a sharp pain in there, maybe it's too much and you want to back off and just do some stretching instead. If you feel a deep pressure pain, that's fine, but anything sharp in here, you should stop doing it. If someone's advised you to work on your hips, it doesn't mean it's the right thing, so you need to find out why. So in this position here, so as that's relaxed into there, it's going to take a while, so 10-20 seconds until the stretch reflex has gone through, and then as anyone that's done this is the hardcore bit. You're going to lift your knee up to 90 degrees and you're going to just gently let your hip drop out. And that will build up a couple of extra levers inside that muscle group. And sometimes the foam roller will just stick up slightly at this stage, which is perfectly fine. And you're going to hold that with your hand. You can leave it floating. I don't like that. I like to actually add the weight of my hand onto it because it actually levers it in a bit harder. And you can lift it up a little bit higher. That doesn't work so well for me. Just there. Go down lower. Oh, that is even stronger. So you're just trying to find that spot, that sweet spot where you can really feel it strong. Sometimes the muscle will be a little bit twitchy. That's fine. You just feel a nice strong stretch. And basically it will take somewhere between 20 to 45 seconds for this to loosen. And you just keep holding it, holding it, holding it. And when it starts to plateau or disappear, unlikely to disappear really, it's just likely to plateau where it doesn't feel like it's going to help anymore. And you're going to take that across and let that drop down. And then we're going to go down just about ½ an inch, keep it in tight. And then you're going to lean back on it. Good. And then lift your knee up and then drop it out. And the same again. My hip is just below 90 is my spot where I can feel it. You might feel it a little bit on the inside of your thigh, your adductors, because it's been stretched and levered. That's fine to feel that, as long as it's not sharp. Feeling sharp pain, again, as always, stop what you're doing and message me. If it feels like a deep pressure pain in the hip, that's fine. And this is very, very powerful stuff, so you have to go slow and steady. You have to be sure that I've advised it and it's right for you. If you're not sure, then it's not for you. Good. That's great. And then take that up and across and down. So you can chase that for a while. You might take longer than me. So it's not about kind of like how fast it should be. It's until you feel like the improvement starts to drop or it's actually not improving anymore. So we're going to go slightly wider there. Good. And then you're going to do the same again. And then you're going to have to probably drop your weight out now. So about an inch wider than where we were. You're going to have to roll your hip into it a lot harder now so that you can feel that pressure build on that hip muscle. Now, as you roll it out a lot harder, wider, it's going to be a bit more sore. So as that's more sore, you'll feel that muscle fighting a little bit. If you feel it fight, just drop off it a little bit. And then just let the weight drop back in again. If the muscle's fighting and twitching, it's trying to hold on. Either it's because it's just been tight for a long time, or actually something's not right in there. So either way, you have to really listen to your body and make sure that you don't push through it. Good. And as that frees up, and I keep holding that on, and that's loosening, so I'm going to go out a little bit wider. That's fantastic. Hold that pressure on. And then let that keep dropping out. See, mine now is really loosening. Mine's dropping out a lot now. That's fantastic. Great stuff. And then just bring that back into alignment and then drop that down. Again, this is powerful stuff. Be very, very careful. Make sure that you're being guided by me or one of my osteopaths to use this correctly. And so we've gone back up. So we've gone one at the top, one down ½ an inch, one out an inch, and one up an inch. We're just trying to hit those deep muscles inside the hip again, holding that position here with keeping our left hip on the ground all the time. So you're going to use that as a lever up here, again across. And we're coming into sort of some of the more superficial muscle groups in the hip here. And it will feel kind of more superficial than the first two. And holding that and bring it across. So I can try and drop it down. Yes, again, same for me. Dropping it just below 90 is a bit stronger for me. My pelvic angles are not going to be the same as yours. So don't be scared of just wavering slightly down or up from 90 degrees going out and across. So the knee should feel like it's going across over the top of the foam roller. And you feel that really strong inhibition there. It's very, 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 very powerful. Again, if you don't understand why your hips are tight, then actually these things can be quite dangerous because they can loosen things up that were holding you together. So be sure that you know why your hips are tight. If you don't know why, then we're here for you. Good stuff. And keep pressing that across, bring that up, and then drop that down. So we've done 4 sections in there. Again, it's very, very powerful, and we're going to do the other side. So everybody, you know what I'm like with my balance. If you're unbalanced, a lot of you guys are probably unbalanced, so you've got to write down unbalanced in the comments, but actually physically unbalanced as well as mentally. So again, we're locating that knobbly bit, PSISs, and then a couple of inches down into here. So I'm going to do the same on that other side. So rolling on our side, locating that foam roller, the edge of this foam roller in this spot, so I can feel it in there. Good stuff. And then we're going to just roll on top of that. So we're going to keep our right leg straight, left leg bent, and make sure you've got it on. So I had it a little bit low there. So I've repositioned again, making sure the foam roller is parallel. It doesn't go down, it doesn't go up, it's parallel, and it gets wedged in that spot. Sometimes as you go down, because of your pelvis, the foam roller might tilt up. That's perfectly fine. If you're feeling pain, it's highly likely. If it's sharp pain or doesn't feel like it should feel, then stop what you're doing and message us. So in that position there, and then you're going to have to do the first one is always the stronger one. So this will always feel more pain, but it has to just let that slowly relax into it. Keeping that right leg straight, this left leg bent. It doesn't feel too strong to start with, just let it settle in and let that muscle slowly start to dissolve and ease. And as that starts to dissolve and ease, take about 10 or 15 seconds, don't rush it, just wait for the muscle to relax. That's lovely. As it relaxes, yeah, I can feel that relaxing now. I can lift the knee up, just check it feels comfy, and then bringing our knee out and over the top of the foam roller, that extra lever. Now, I can feel that very strong. My mum's given me a gammy left hip, and so my left hip's not as mobile as my right, so I'm definitely unbalanced. Everyone that's met me probably knows that. Mentally unbalanced as well as physically. So, and unfortunately, I've given that to my son. His son is here taking the video, and he's got a dodgy left hip as well. And we're going to just take that across, and that's just one of those genetic things. Sometimes we're going to be genetically slightly more immobile one than the other. So I now have to work on my left hip more than my right to try and keep myself more balanced. And as you let that drop out, you can feel that kind of stretch and getting deeper. And as we feel that getting deeper, we're just chasing it again. And it's going to take longer for me this side. I hang around on the right side because it's easy for me to free up my right hip. So I'm going to keep going in deeper, and I can really feel that left hip dropping out more and more. Don't worry if the foam roller lifts up, as long as it's perpendicular to your pelvis and spine is fine, and getting deeper. Now often hip problems are compounded by problems further down, knee problems and ankle problems. My one is definitely ankle. I've shredded my ankle ligaments when I used to play a lot of football and sports when I was younger. And my left ankle's much worse, which is not a great combination, because dodgy left ankle with dodgy left hip means that it needs a bit of work to keep it all going. So if you're feeling sharp pain, stop, but it will be strong. So just be careful as you go in there, and deeper as we go. If you do have injuries in your hips, this is definitely not for you and you should message us. Good stuff. And then just keep freeing it up and let that keep drop out. So sometimes as you're doing this, you might feel some aching down the leg. That's probably a muscle referral pattern from the hip muscles, so they can refer pain down your leg very gently, a very deep dull ache, which is quite common, but not to worry. So this is taking quite a long time for me on this side here, so I'm still going out. Well done. And I can now feel that coming into my adductor on the left side. That's fine, and I'm just going to keep chasing it out. That's good. And then try and take a deep breath in and breathe out, and just try and let it relax into there, and that's plateauing out now. So I'm going to bring that back and drop that down. So we're going to go down about ½ an inch lower and repeat the same process. We'll feel slightly different. We'll go into a slightly different muscle. Don't go too low, because if you go too low, you're going to come off those muscles. So lift it up again and then just drop that out. And again, I have to just go just below 90 for me, I think. It's about 90 there. And I'm just holding that in there. As I inhibit that, it just loosens up much quicker. The first one's always the hardest one. Good. And then just keep freeing it up as we go. And that pressure keeps building. Good, well done. And that is just keep chasing that tension there. Well done. And this is very, very powerful indeed. Cool. That's brilliant. And then just take that as you start to plateau, bring it back to neutral very gently drop it, making sure you keep those angles. So we're going to go out by ½ an inch now. It's only very small. You think you're moving it a little bit, but actually everyone always moves the foam roller further than what they think they do. So when I say ½ an inch, you're probably actually moving an inch, because it's very hard to feel. So try to move it a very small amount, because everyone thinks ½ an inch, but actually it's actually normally 2 or 3 inches people move it by. So you want to make sure ½ an inch is ½ an inch to an inch. It's not more. So bring that one up there and drop this across. Now, again, this is really, really strong. Really strong. This one will really start to push in there. So let that drop across, and that is really powerful. Wow. So classic kind of thing is people suffer with tightness of hips, sort of office workers, if you've had chronic low back stiffness, if you've had disc problems in the past in your back, these are the sort of things that will lock up longer periods of time. And they often lead back to your low back working a lot harder. So if your hips are tight, you often suffer with low back pain. If your low back pain and hip tightness often come together. They often come together. It doesn't mean why the hip's tight or why your back's tight. It just means they come together quite often. And so then we're going to take that in and keep going across higher. Good. But loosening it off can make your back feel better. But if your hips are holding on for any reason, then actually obviously loosening your hips off that are holding your back together like scaffolding. If you knock the scaffolding down while your back's in trouble, it's not ready to be repaired. If it's not repaired, then you're in trouble. So you're going to go up a little bit higher again, back up against to the higher spot. So you've done that square, down, across and back up again. And make sure not too high, just there. And then bring that up and over the top again. And that's brilliant in there. Any sharp pain, stop what you're doing, but this should be a bit duller by this point now. So bring that one across and keep holding it. So hips locking up, free the hips up, the back often gets better. The problem is if the hips are protecting the back, then freeing it up can make your back get a lot worse. So you only free your hips up if you're sure you know why your hips are so tight. And just because you think you know doesn't mean you actually know. So if you really want to know, then drop us a line and we'll really work out why your hips are tight. Good stuff. And then drop that across, keep going, chase it, chase it. Every single patient that comes in my clinic know I harp on why. It's always why. If we don't get to the bottom of the why, then we're never going to actually work out how we're going to help people longer term. Freeing up muscles and joints without any understanding why they're tight, really long term is generally deemed to failure. Okay, brilliant. And just keep chasing that. Good stuff. And bring that across and drop that down. So that can be very strong again. So we've done those 4 sections in our hips, and that's a very, very powerful section. So you've got to keep nice and loose and just got to keep chasing it as we go. But we don't want to push ourselves now because we freed our hips up quite strong. So we're going to get on our side and then just get up and make sure our back kind of is used to that, because that's a hell of a workout for our hips and they can feel kind of quite stiff. So you might want to then get up and just have a little bit of a move around the room as you stand up and have a bit of a walk now. So you get up and then you're just going to have a just gentle move around a little bit to kind of get your hips used to it. And then we're going to work onto our spine now. So the spine is really delicate. There's a lot of powerful structures in the spine, but they're also actually fairly weak compared to the big size of those hips. Those hip joints are very, very strong and powerful. Your spine is a lot weaker. So you've got to make sure that you free up your hips first and then do a little bit of work into your back. But people that work in their back a lot with a foam roller generally are freeing up the wrong spot. But we're going to work on the spine now for the people that I've told or you've been advised to. If you're not sure, this is really not for you, and then contact us, DM us or call us, because it's not for you if you've got long-term injuries in there. So we're going to use, again, I would never use these rough side in, never say never. I wouldn't really recommend these knobbly bits in the spine. So use this smooth part in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it into the flank of our muscle here. There's a muscle here called the quadratus lumborum. There's the erector spine, it sits next to it. We're going to just work in there very roughly in the same way we did just a moment ago, but we're going to locate those areas. So you can see these ribs here, and they come round and tuck into your spine, and your spine comes down in this line. So that's your line. So if you can see my finger and thumb give you that alignment, and then we're going to use this part of the foam roller to sit in against it. What we don't want is across the spine, because that will put too much pressure. Now if you've got any instability in your spine, spondylolisthesis, fractures, any weaknesses, osteoporosis, not sure, this is dangerous for someone that it's not appropriate. If you're not sure, please don't do it and contact us. For everyone that's done it with me or knows what they're doing, then we carry on doing it in here and in this position here. So you've got that line and you're going to put it in that spot. I'm going to locate it by laying down again. So laying on our side, and I'm going to lay on my left side. And so if you can do it, so you can be sure, get your arm underneath here like that. Probably most people can't do that. So you're going to chase your ribs round and feel your spine. And then you're going to take your finger and then locate it so you can feel where the knobbly bit of your spine is in your rib, and you can feel the right spot.
And then you're going to then lay on your side, your left leg straight, right knee bent, and you're going to gently roll on top of it. And you can see how that sticks up slightly. That's perfectly fine. I want you to stay at a slight angle off it for a while. I can feel I'm slightly low now. I want to get it just underneath that ribs, and it will just be a little bit firmer higher up, off the spine and below the ribs. It's quite a strong feeling. My knee isn't straightened yet. It's just pressure. Just load the area gently, see how it feels. A pressure pain, any sharp pain, stop, type in pain, DM us, but make sure it's nice, strong pressure, not pain. And then I'm just going to straighten up my right knee now, and that really levers on a lot harder. And so you'll feel a lot stronger pressure inside this spine. And then, much like when we were doing the thoracic spine towel exercise earlier, we're going to take a deep breath in. And as you breathe out, just try and relax the spine into it. And then just breathe into it as you go. That's brilliant. And just breathe in nice and steadily. Any sharp pain, stop what you're doing. Brilliant. And so there we go. And then what I want to do is go down a little bit lower into there, and then onto your back. So you're into the mid part of your spine now, not over the spine, or next to the spine. And you're going to roll down on top of it. That's brilliant. Brilliant. And you can feel the pressure. That's fantastic. And you can feel that inhibition working. That's brilliant. And you can feel that pressure building. I wouldn't do the base of the back. You can do the base of the back if I've informed you to do that. I think that it's where a lot of people have a lot of problems, and it's more than likely to go wrong for a lot of people. Higher up the spine, slightly less chance of getting in trouble, so you're going to just use that on this, in the higher and the mid part of your back, not the base of your back. A lot of people will think, oh, I really want to get it in the base of your back. Actually, that's probably where you're more likely to be unstable, and you want to leave that area alone. You can do the same lower down, but I would advise most people not to do it. So deep breath in and out, and you can feel that loosen off again. And then come off it, and you just want to just feel there's no sharpness. Again, we're locating the same area of our back on that left side, using our finger on the edge of the foam roller to feel the nubbly bit of your spine, to make sure you've got your rib line right, and just in below the ribs next to the spine. And then we're going to roll on top of it, bottom leg, right leg straight, left leg bent, and again I'm at this slight angle as I inhibit and start the inhibition technique. Going to sit there for 7-10 seconds, and you'll feel it loosen off very slowly. And as we do that, I'm going to then chase it in with my straightening my knee more, and you breathe it out. There are additions to this. You can make it even stronger. I'm not going to show you them today because they are crazy strong and only for the uber strong and fit. And I'm pretty much not that at the moment. So make sure you go nice and steady on here. The foam roller slightly coming up is fine. And let that go through. That's loosened up. My spine's actually quite free. You might want to leave it longer, up to about 45 seconds, which is fine. Any sharp pain, stop. And so again, roll off, drop down, back into there again. This is the middle part of the lumbar spine. We're into the erector spinae here. And then this will be looser. Should be a dull feeling, no sharpness is fine. And breathe in and breathe out. And this is just loosening off the last bits of muscle of your spine. This is very, very strong stuff. I don't really recommend many people to do laying down with a foam roller into their mid back. It's just too strong with these size of foam rollers. You can get the smaller foam rollers, which is slightly better and they're slightly softer. That's a possibility, but just the work you've done there now should be more than enough for freeing up your pelvis and your upper lumbar spine. I'd be very careful about using it into your mid back. Okay, good. And I can feel it loose softer. So we can straighten up. And so again, because we've loosened up our spine, take a nice position here, straighten up.
So those are a really powerful set of exercises. Foam rollers are very, very powerful. They have to be used with a lot of respect. Only use them really if you know what you're doing, that we've advised you to do it, and anyone else, they shouldn't be using it. If you're not sure, please contact us and we'll give you appropriate advice. I've really enjoyed that. If you haven't got a foam roller, get yourself one so you can join in, and we're going to do shoulder work next week. We do some stretching to start with, foam roller second. They're really highly effective together in the shoulder for those shoulder problems. Is brilliant. We need to get to work out why you have the problem. If we understand the why, we can get to the what. So everyone out there, I've had a cracking time today. If you have any questions or problems, then drop us a line. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week at 2 o'clock for your stretching and 2:30 for your foam roller. Take care, guys. Bye bye.